All right, recording a video early in the morning. Woke up at 6, and this video I'm going to paint some miniatures. That's why I got the camera set up the way I do, a la the Bruce style, except his camera is better than mine. That's okay. He's probably a much better painter too, so you know we just have to deal with it, right? Take a drink of my go-go juice, and then you guys can see I've got a bunch of figures here that, I've got my little otter, of course. I've got this guy with no head. And I got this guy who's getting ready to have no head. And this guy who had no head but currently has a new head. So he'll have to be painting. If you're seeing a theme there, it is because a lot of times I will print out multiples of the same file. And, sometimes I'll switch them up. So I'll do like a Uno Reverso. So one of the figures is right-handed. Oh, this is my orb bat fungal thing. Sorry I didn't hold it still enough to focus in, but anyway, so I will print multiples of the same figure and then just do weapon and arm swaps because just I buy so many figures, or I have bought so many figures over the years that I've ended up with literally just tons of sprues just laying around. Like these are Stargrave figures laying around. I think these are female heads, but that one there is a chimpanzee. Oh no, these are male heads. So yeah. So these are from the scavenger kit. And that it makes it really handy when you're trying to add a little bit of difference between miniatures that are otherwise the same. Now, some miniatures I don't care so much about, like I have a ton of little mutant badgers over here, which in GammaWorld would be called batters. And they're kind of like one of the main bad guys that people can encounter. Think of them more or less like orcs or, something like that. They're just humanoids that live, in warrens and ruins and pretty much want to kill and eat everyone they encounter. So, um, not great, but like where your head swaps are really going to come in too. Speaking of head swaps, I'm getting ready to put a weapon on this guy. Is like a creature like this. This is in GammaWorld. Let me hold it up. In GammaWorld, this is an Orlin. And they're a type of mutant that has 4 arms, 2 heads, and they actually have 2 brains, but they're connected, so they can use all of their arms, really well. They have control over that, which, cool for them. Um, so by clipping off that extra hand, or maybe because I'm going to print up a bunch of these, doing some head swaps here and there, and also gluing on some, spare bits, you can get a lot of individuality out of what started out as basically one uh one thing, that's one body type or one uh figure. And that is what I really love when it comes to this hobby is, I mean, I am a self-admitted junkie when it comes to customizing miniatures. Like, I am that guy that will have 120 man Death Corps Krieg army, and like every single infantryman is in some way just slightly different. Whether, the different gear I've added, trophies, whatever, Um, and I don't know. I think I learned that from Games Workshop in the 90s, because Games Workshop wasn't always the evil corporate bastards they are today, as you hear. At one time, they really, really, really pushed for people to be creative. They were always showing off in like White Wolf, or not White Wolf, White Dwarf. All the different ways you could customize your different figures, armies, whatever. And of course, this was before they were all hyper about everything has to be Games Workshop too. So, they would literally, I remember second edition. No, it was third. It was the one that came with the Black Templars or whatever. Um, the White Wolf, there was a White Wolf that came out during that period where they literally had the blueprints to build an orc gobsmasher out of the cardboard that you would get that they make cereal boxes out of. And so this Orlan, because Orlans a lot of times have access to ancient technology. So with that one arm that was kind of up there just doing nothing, come on, focus in better. Focus in better. You can see I have added a revolver. The revolver come from a kit of cowboys and whatnot that I picked up, oh heavens, long, long time ago when I built them all, and I made a message to myself, if we ever play GammaWorld or any Wild West shootout cowboy game, I've got like 20 banditos. I got some of them that, got sheriff stars on them. I've got females and males armed with shotguns and whatever. Now, if you're wondering about the weapon as far as rules wise in GammaWorld, if you're going to play GammaWorld, I'm going to tell you the very best version of GammaWorld to play is second edition. Absolutely. No other edition, in my opinion, is as good as second. The second thing I would tell you is this. If you're going to play second edition GammaWorld at all, buy the book Artifacts of the Ancients or whatever it's called. It's like the first expansion book for GammaWorld. And what it does is it basically, not basically, it adds like hundreds of new equipment choices, including, revolvers, assault rifles, et cetera, et cetera. So that gives you the option of, instead of just having a guy with his die 6 damage musket or his die, 4 die 6 or whatever laser rifle, all of a sudden, he might have just a standard assault rifle, right? Or a hunting rifle or a sniper rifle or all kinds of other stuff. You might have armor that was actually made out of a stop sign, and the other thing is hockey armor. Like maybe your team of mutant furries or whatever bust into a hardware store, abandoned hardware store in the middle of the city, and they decide, hey, look at all this stuff. This is cool. And they start wearing it. And now you've got these guys running around wearing goalie armor or, football armor or whatever. And it gives you rules for that. And, that's actually like super cool because I don't believe I would ever use all the power armor and all that BS. My Gamma World game is going to be a lot more not super sci-fi. So you're probably in my game not going to run into people running around with black ray blasters and death rays and stuff like that. But you might run into a bunch of mutants all covered in, open superating like bleh, radiation burns carrying AK-47s or something. Or whatever basically the AK of that era would be. Also, how I explain mutation is not just radiation. Um, One of the weapons that got dropped during the big war was actually a bioengineered nanite whose sole purpose was just to re-engineer DNA. And everywhere these basically these mutabombs hit, every living creature, trees and all, everything, had its DNA rewritten. And 99% of the time, that meant the creature just died. But 1 out of 100, you end up with dabbers or some shit. So it's not just radiation over, centuries that can cause mutation in my game. I make that very clear. Like out of game, in game, none of the players have any idea except for the legends they heard that, at some point in the distant past, there were these great, powerful empires, and they went to war, and boom, Tell you what, the mutant badgers that I don't modify to be more Gamma World would really work for a Pugmire game. And interestingly enough, I don't know if this has anything to do with anything, but in Pugmire, some of the main baddies you might encounter while traveling in the wilderness are badgers. They're kind of like Pugmire's version of orcs. They just roam about in big mobs, doing horrible shit. Of course, batters in Gamma World are actually higher technologically speaking than a lot of the PC starting village is going to be. Which I guess makes sense if you think that the batters, they live maybe near a bombed out city in their warrens, and they are constantly sending raiding parties into these ancient cities and, bringing back whatever it is they can find. So, yeah, the fact that in a group of batters, one of them might have and know how to operate a las rifle or slip it into my 40K or something like that, kind of, you could say makes a little sense, right? Whereas the human village, where they all come from, they pretty much are all laying low, trying to, just not get killed or whatever. So, in a lot of ways, they end up being at a relatively low level of technology compared to where, a lot of the other creatures around them are. So, just a little interesting kind of observation, why like creatures like hoops and batters and orlins and stuff like that might have such a higher level of technology than the player characters. And it's because the player characters probably come from a very small village that's barely hanging on, and probably also constantly being raided and messed with, and not in going raiding into the cities as much as the monsters are. So that causes them a problem. And at least that's what I think. I mean, and that's what I think. That's what I think. I'm not getting any painting done, even though I was like, I'm going to do some painting. But the reason is because I'm actually doing a lot of modding right this second. I'm doing a lot of head swaps and whatnot, which you guys can't really see me doing, and I apologize for that. But I'm also just rambling about GammaWorld. Now, when it comes to games TSR made, GammaWorld, like Star Frontiers, are really, really gems as far as, just being really, really good, well-designed games. And I honestly think second edition, as I said, GammaWorld is peak GammaWorld because not a huge fan of GammaWorld having a class-based system. Just, for me, GammaWorld having a class-based system just feels wrong. And I admit that it's probably because, my first taste of GammaWorld was second edition, the box set, which I still have. Look how beat up this thing is, though, but I still have it. And also because as much as some people love Face Rip, and I played Face Rip in a Marvel game a couple times, it's just not a system that I love, it just isn't. And as much as I might wish that it is, it's just not. I just don't like the Face Rip system that much. I can tolerate it, but I don't care for it. Whereas the standard GammaWorld system that they put out in first and second edition, I'm a huge fan of that. I don't mind the matrices and the, comparing stats and seeing what you need to roll and why and whatever. I actually like that. I think that's cool. And so, yeah. And then Star Frontiers is pretty much more of the same. It's just a great system that could have been with a little bit more support from the company. It came out at like in a weird place where, let's just say the company was going through some transitionary periods, right? And I honestly just don't think it ever got the support it deserved. Star Frontiers, I mean. And they put out Zebulon's Guide, which could have been amazing, and in a lot of ways was pretty good as far as the skills and stuff. But then they wanted everyone to try the Face Rip system with Star Frontiers. And of course, I was immediately like, no, I am not using that freaking spectrum chart for anything. So when I played GammaWorld, I just played the standard, I guess what they called advanced GammaWorld, as opposed to the basic one. And yeah. So I got some vulture mutants here. I don't know if they could stand in for dark emperors or not, but these bad boys are double headed. Maybe I should go on Thingiverse and look up Slee Stack and see if somebody's got some 28 millimeter STLs for Slee Stacks, or not Slee Stacks, Skeksis, and then print up, a few of those guys to have around. Because I mean, Skeksis would 100% be great for the. I forget their actual name. I'd have to look in my book, but they're the ultra super smart vultures that generally have some blood birds hanging around them all the time. And you encounter them in the first adventure in this second edition box set. They've kind of got in the ruins of Pittsburgh, they've kind of got a little setup going on. And yeah, the players will encounter them. Now, another thing, and of course, if you don't have a 3D printer, there are ways around this. Like literally, you can go into the Matchbox aisle and see if you can't find street signs and stuff. But I printed up a bunch of street signs that are just about perfect. I mean, maybe they should be just a tad smaller. I don't know. It depends. We'll see how it looks. But I printed up street signs, stop signs, yield signs, all that sort of stuff. So, like that badger, I've got a badger on the table that I cut the shield that he originally had and shaved down his arm. And when the signs have been cured in my UV cure box, which is in front of me here, he's going to get either a stop sign or a yield sign. And that will double down on the fact that, hey, this guy is definitely some kind of weird futuristic mutant. And he's using a yield sign for a shield. If you don't think an aluminum yield sign or stop sign would be a good shield, I have some news for you. Against a lot of items, they'd actually be a great shield. I mean, I'm not saying a guy with a two-handed sword wouldn't slash right down through it and into your arm, but one thing about using a shield is to deflect the blow. And the other thing is, to deflect the blow up. I guess that's really all we're talking about, right? And in the SCA, everybody almost builds shields out of aluminum, like quarter-inch thick aluminum, something like that, about the same thickness as a stop sign. As a matter of fact, some people may even have went out and stolen signs and shit, which I don't recommend because that could be very dangerous, stealing a stop sign or something. That's crazy, but I imagine people do. And then, cut it down with a jigsaw and they make their shields. And you've got somebody using a heavy, solid 1.5 inch thick rattan wood club just banging away, and that shield will deflect and stop that, which means against a steel mace, yeah, if you catch that blow solid, that steel mace, especially if it's flanged, is probably going to dent that shield in, right? But that's preferable to getting your skull dented in. So there you go. Yes, an aluminum sign would work as a defensive shield. 100%. Maybe as good or better than a wooden one. I don't know. I mean, the good news is with an aluminum shield, it's much lighter to carry. You don't have to worry about it rotting or rusting or anything like that. And yeah, so Um, as campy as it is to see, monsters, adventures, whatever, in these post-apocalyptic games running around with street signs and whatever strapped to them. To be brutally honest, I mean, it would work. I mean, not saying it'd be the best armor ever made. It's definitely, there's definitely, made for purpose stuff that they made in the medieval era that's better. But hey, if you're living in a post apocalyptic world and you're walking down the street and you see an old ruined freaking, you know, traffic sign, all you got to do is figure out a way to get some holes punched in it so that you can put a handle on it and you are basically good to go. Found armor, free, you know? So, yeah, that's me spending 10 minutes justifying the use of street signs in GammaWorld. Yeah, I made like 50 of them, so I'll probably be handing them out. I still got some sci-fi figures that I need to finish painting. They're almost done, but they're mostly just generic sci-fi and Blade Runner figures. This guy looks like trash right now. I'm almost embarrassed to show him off because he's just got his base colors on, and I haven't even tried to highlight him or anything, but this is Ryan Gosling's character from Blade Runner 2047, which I think might actually, in a lot of ways, be better than the original. So yeah, Nexus 9. And if you look, you guys can't see, but holding him up and looking into his face, I mean, yeah, it looks the part. So, and I've been painting up some of those. Like I've got a Pris that I need to do just a little bit of shading on. See, look how good she came in. I need to do her hair, but I haven't figured out what color. I mean, do I want to go with a freaky color like purple or pink or something? Or do I want to go with a more traditional blonde or brown? I don't know. Here's another version of a Nexus 6 Pleasure model. And let's see if I can get her. Yeah. You can see her flesh needs shaded and then highlighted. She's got her red micro dress on, purple hair. Needs work, but overall, I'm pretty happy with it. And I mean, this guy right here, I don't know if you'll be able to see this guy. I'll hold him up. We'll see if you can see him. This is a Russian, probably Spetsnaz sniper with one of those, the 9mm subsonic sniper rifles they use. I forget the name of it. The Vow, I think, is what it's called, right? And even his face in there is green and should be green because they wear a green balaclava. So the only thing I could really paint on him, other than what I've already painted on him, is I could try to do his eyes and I could paint the rifle black. Other than that, that's just how that dude is. You could see this white spot. This is what happens when you get too sloppy, that white spot on him. That's what happens when you get too sloppy when you're doing zenithal highlighting with a brush and you've watered the paint down and you've got a figure that's pretty much completely painted sitting on the table. Little white specks fly across and get onto everything, and it sucks. However, I have got my Gunship Green, great color by Vallejo, Vallejo, which is my favorite paint, honestly. Which doesn't mean it's the only paint I use. I use Pro Acryl, Army Painter, contrasts. I'll use pretty much any paint that captures my fancy, right? But by and large, overall, I'm kind of a Vallejo guy. It's uh, just how it is, right? So, yeah, I don't even got to paint this guy's boots since, a lot of the times they wear these canvas boots that are actually green. So it's this is literally a very easy miniature to paint. It's like a couple of different colors. Like I just did the touch up on him, and I might grab a little bit of black out. Knock my camera over. Why don't I? Get a little black paint out, which I have some on the desk here. A little bit of Negros, and paint that rifle up, that Val, and he will be done and ready for service. If you're wondering, James, why do you have all of these Spetsnaz guys and whatever, on your table, and you've painted them up and stuff, like, this guy right here, that's a BMP3, obviously. I would say, thank you for asking, stranger person, or Shark, because, Shark likes to ask me a bunch of questions. That's why I love him so much. When he's in my live stream chats, he's always chatting it up. And I'll tell you what, not to get super off track, but when you're trying to do a live stream, unless it's a pre-written live stream like Double D does, some other people do, where they actually kind of have a script and a topic, and that's the way you should do it. But of course, I do it the lazy way, which is I just rely on guests and people in the chat to, give me topics to pretty much go on about, right? And having someone like Shark and some of the other guys in your chat really makes streaming the way I do a pleasure, because they're always talking about something and keeping the conversation, going the way you kind of want it to go. So a little call out to my Marine bro. And not just him. It's just he's on my mind, because when I was in the shower before I got on, he pointed some stuff out about the parade, and I've been thinking about it. And basically, he was pointing out that some of the soldiers he felt like looked out of shape. And I was like, well, first off, you're a Marine, so you can't judge everyone in the Army by Marine standard, because that's not fair. Marines are more elite on average than your average Army guy. Now, when I was in, I might have been considered to be semi-elite, only because I was in a rapid deployment force infantry unit. But, I think what Marines don't remember, because I don't think they have this in the Marine Corps the way we do, because every Marine is a rifleman first, right? But in the Army, you've got guys that are going to spend their entire career counting mattresses, bed sheets, whatever they're doing, right? And so it's like, while yes, it would be nice if every single soldier in the Army could be a jacked up, killing machine. The reality is, as long as the guy can pass his PT tests and stuff, he's not P3 profile piece of crap. Unless, of course, he got hurt in some way, and he's not just trying to scam the system and slack off. I don't have a problem with the guys in like the super rear echelon units not being as fit and gung ho as like the guys in the airborne infantry units, Rangers, etc. I really don't see that as a big issue. And hey, if maybe you disagree, maybe you think every soldier should be, the paragon of whatever, but at the end of the day, somebody's got to do all the logistical bullshit, right? And maybe it's just my opinion, and I could be totally wrong, but it's my opinion that as long as they can pass their PT test, who gives a shit? It's not like they're ever going to see combat. These guys, like, while we're deployed in the Gulf, these guys are like in totally different countries, doing paperwork and whatever the hell they're doing, and their jobs could probably be just as easily done by civilians, really. But um, whatever, who cares? As long as the job's getting done, so that the main job can get done. Like, people don't remember that for every infantryman in the field, there are just a numberless horde of support guys in the rear making sure we can do our job. And, you know, I can't speak for every infantryman, but I can speak for me and for the guys I was stationed with in 3-7. We love our support guys. We love our medics. We love our cooks. That guy that does nothing all day but set in the logistics area. We love that guy. Like, of course, we love our support guys because, when you need something or you want something, who are you turning to? You know, if you get hurt goofing off with your friends, you're going to see the medics. Or if your friend sleeps with a woman that's so heavy it literally bends the frame of your army issued bunk, you know, then you're going to talk to the sarge down in logistics. And believe me, I've been there on that one. Uh, and it was an interesting conversation me and old Sarge had. But the point is, yeah, sometimes us infantry guys will give other soldiers a little bit of shit, but it's all in great, it's all in like brotherhood. It's kind of like when the airborne and the ranger guys call me a dirty leg because I'm not airborne. Obviously, I was a mechanized infantry, Bradley. Um, I don't get mad about it. I don't think any soldier gets mad about it. It's just like you're just like, haha, yeah, whatever. It's just part of the brotherhood. You know what I mean? Now, this chick right here, I don't know if she's supposed to be a mage, a superhero, what her deal is, but she's definitely, I mean, the feminists, thank God I don't play with any of them. Both of the women at my table are, the kind of women who want to play beautiful women. They don't want to play fat, ugly women in wheelchairs or whatever. Uh, this chick is freaking, I wouldn't say she's very realistically built, but I would say that's fine. It come in a pack of adventurers, and when I printed her out and looked at her, I was like, damn. No, I wasn't like, oh my god, I gotta do something. I was like, damn, that chick is hot. Look how she's built. Why? Because I'm a guy. Like, this is one of the GammaWorld figures. I haven't, put any white paint on her. She's pretty damn stacked, man. I don't know. Them pure strain humans in the future. I don't know what they're feeding their ladies, but damn, you know. Then again, the pure strain humans in GammaWorld are supposed to be the fittest of the fittest, genetically perfect humans that survived that last war. So that's why they get so many more hit points and everything. And I remember reading somewhere, somebody who knows GammaWorld more than me might even know where I got this from. They're so perfect, they don't even have crooked teeth. Like they have perfect teeth, perfect everything. They're, typically stronger and healthier than the muties around them. And that makes sense because, surviving, having your DNA completely re-altered and or altered and radiation sickness and stuff would probably jack you up pretty bad. So, you might not be the healthiest specimen out there, right? Whereas the pure strain humans, they're the uh, result of however many years of only the very strongest, best, most perfect humans surviving and reproducing. So uh, there is that. I don't think this woman's wearing a bra. I think she's just wearing like some nipple covers or something. That's crazy. I just realized that. Like, damn. All right. Okay. I mean, if that's how we're doing it. Um. Oh yeah, I showed these off on a live stream, but these streams where it's just me talking, people actually can see stuff a little better. I'm just grabbing a handful, but I made like 20 of these. And no, I can't take all the credit. If you're wondering what they are, they're just piles of ripped up dead bodies, painted up, a rough and ready paint job, not a lot of, whatever, just get some paint on them, make them look nasty and bloody and whatever. And so I made at least 20 of those things. And I'm figuring that's a good investment of time for me because they can pretty much be used with any game. Like Professor Dungeon Master, who, a lot of people have mixed opinions about. Me personally, I like the guy. And I have been one of his followers on X and YouTube and all that since, he started. And yes, I've also talked shit about him when I felt like he needed some shit talked about him. But ultimately, I actually really like him a lot. This is something he did, except he didn't have access to a 3D printer. So he just made up, chunks of miniatures and hot glue and whatever. He's got a video about it. And what he does is when the players are in a dungeon doing their thing, every time they kill someone, he puts one of these in the square where the person they killed was, right? And then I think that's just it. I don't know if he has any additional rules after that, but I think how I would do it is I would start out the same way he did with every time, the players take someone out or whatever, drop one of those corpse piles where the person was, but then that turns that square into difficult terrain because, there's a dead body laying there bleeding out and possibly, I mean, if we want to make it more Conan style, entrails and stuff all over the place that it would be really easy for somebody running through to slip on. And in that way, it could really make for a more interesting game. Whether you're playing Traveler, D&D, doesn't matter, Like in Traveler, let's say your character gets into a gunfight with pirates, right? And you unload a automatic rifle into some pirate and blow him apart, And so you take the pirate off the map and you put the corpse pile on, and if the guy runs through that freaking square, maybe have him make a easy check versus dex. And if he shanks it bad, say he slips in the blood and falls down, or has to stop to recover his balance or whatever, right? Um, that might sound like kind of being a jerk to the players, but I don't think it is, because I think that that kind of thing adds a lot of, let's say, excitement to the game. I mean, especially, can you imagine, like, the players are in the typical 30 by 30 room or something, right? They get in a fight with 8 orcs. And the monsters, of course, have to deal with the thing the same as the players do. Because I don't like doing, a rule like that only affects the players. So if the orcs run through the bloody bodies of their fallen kin folk or a player, you never know, right? They got to make their check too, right? But as the battle goes on, assuming the orcs don't turn and run, you're going to end up in a situation where 8 squares in that 30 by 30 room are just full of blood and guts all over the place. And then all of a sudden, the players are going to have to figure out whether I'm going to run and try to, long jump over this dead orc so that I can get to the other side and, come down on this other orc with my great axe. And anything that makes combat more exciting, and I think is a good thing. And it's actually a very cost efficient thing you could do, because it's not adding so many layers of new rules to a game that it's going to slow combat down. It's not. I mean, it just means every time the characters kill a monster, depending, then, the area where the monster fell down and bled out. Now, skeletons, I don't think would really count for this, becomes difficult terrain. Okay, that's no problem. Players got the ability to avoid the difficult terrain, or risk it, whatever. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't think that's going to slow the game down, actually. Now, of course, I found out, I was talking about this on a live stream, actually, but I'm going to talk about it here too. As soon as I asked the players what kind of characters they would like to play in GammaWorld, because I usually make the characters, because I can't count on my players necessarily to make their characters in a timely fashion. So I asked them what kind of players with that character do they want to be, and then I just random everything up. And I make the character, random roll right down the line. And GammaWorld second edition, it's 4 dice 6, drop the lowest for everything. And then to determine hit points, it's dice 6 times your constitution. So you roll a number of dice 6 equal to your con score, and that's your hit points. Now, remember that you don't have levels in this game, so it's not like your character goes up levels. And also, there are some weapons out there that can hit for like 10 dice 6. You get smacked in the face with an RPG or something. Somebody throws a frag grenade into a room with you. That can be the end of you, even if you think, oh, I got 50 something hit points. Because let's say the person you're dealing with has only ever played D&D. They see that their character's got 50 plus hit points. They're thinking, damn, I'm made in the shade over here. They don't realize necessarily how quickly those hit points can go away. in GammaWorld. They can go away really quick. And of course, pure strain humans get to add con score D8 for hit points. So pure strain humans, that's the advantage for not having all the cool mutations. You get a lot more hit points. You get bonuses to con and charisma and whatever. But 18 is max. So, chances of an 18 con pure strain human are actually pretty good since they get like +2. So you're rolling 4 dice 6, dropping the lowest. And or no, I think with them you just roll 4 dice 6 and you don't drop the lowest. You just keep all 4. But 18 still max. And then, so if you've got a pure strain human and they rolled relatively decent, they got like a 16, 17, or 18 con, then you roll that number of die 8. And that's how many hit points they start with. That is possibly, oh, my wife's alarm's going off. That is possibly a lot of hit points, right? But like I said, if you get whacked, by some animals and definitely by some of the higher end weapons, explosives and stuff, those hit points go away pretty quick. And hell, there's some mental mutations that can take you out too, life leech, anti-life filled, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, if you are a D&D player and you're thinking about getting into GammaWorld and you decide to pick up the best edition, which is second, do not get over freaking confident because when you started the game, you rolled like a really high hit point score. Because that'll get you killed, And as I said, since there's no levels, it's really like all you do is you spend your XP and buy things for your character, which could be more hit points, maybe. I'd have to double check that, but or maybe you pick up skills, get better with something, whatever it is. Let's see, almost an hour. Probably end after an hour. You guys have only got to see me mod some miniatures, talk about GammaWorld, and put white paint on some miniatures. I got a female over here wearing what looks like plastil body armor with a flamethrower. So that's definitely a traveler character. I got this. This is one of the players in my group. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And this is one of the other players in the group. And if you're wondering what that is a mutant otter. Which I'm okay with. Otters are awesome. So we got a mutant otter. He's wearing like some kind of leather jerkin. He's got a dagger. Who knows what else he'll be carrying? I mean, I have it on my table right now like a modern style backpack I might glue on him just to make him look a little bit, cooler. Be a lot cooler if you did. But yeah, who chooses to play like a mutant moose or a mutant freaking deer? To me, that's like the wildest shit. But then again, who decides to really, really go above and beyond and say they want to play a mutant muskrat? It's like, really? A mutant muskrat? I mean, okay. I mean, why didn't you just say a mutant beaver at that point? I mean, shit. least then you could argue that your character is really good at construction or something. But yeah. There was still a sprue kind of stuck on this bad boy. So a mutant sloth. This sounds like the beginning of a joke, doesn't it? A mutant sloth, a mutant moose, a mutant muskrat, a mutant otter, a mutant human, and a pure strain human walk into a bar. There's still a couple characters that I don't think have answered yet. A couple of characters. They are characters, but I mean players. But most of them did. So, So, yeah, my game group sounds like a damn joke just because it's like, yep, this guy right here looks too similar to the guy that looks identical to him. And you guys know what that means. That means his weapon arm is coming off. Actually, just the hand at the wrist. Ba-bam! And his mohawk head is coming off. And I'll actually put my hand on it so that, ba-bam, I can catch it and save it. Because it is a cool head, It almost looks like the war dog in Road Warrior 2 or Mad Max 2, the Road Warrior. I forget his name. I used to know his name, actually. We go in, we kill. Be still, my dog of war. Right? So then I just grab a generic head that I think come from a Celtic Warriors kit for Dark Ages. And I'll just glue that on him. Same size, pretty much. And then I'll find a weapon arm that has a different weapon. And, the hand being about the same size, close enough that you can't really tell. And he'll get a new hand. And I'll leave his yield sign on him because I don't want to mess with that. That's a bit much, to start messing with. I don't want to do that. I mean, the whole point is just to make it where I've got, the two bodies, but they've got different weapons, so therefore they look different. That's all. Not trying to, rule the world or anything. Even though everybody wants to. I'm just trying to make some things different. I need to put some flock on this guy's base, don't I? Where am I going here? Right here. Got my chocobos, which in GammaWorld would just be some kind of riding animal. Now let me look here and see if I have any weapons on the table. I do. I have got a big freaking Morning Star right here from a Games Workshop Flatulent. Anyway, no, Flatulent. So making sure I put the flat side of the snippers towards the weapon so that I get the flattest cut possible. I guess a knife would be better. And then here's a trick. Take the tiniest little bit of green stuff. Mix up the tiniest bit of green stuff and put just a little bit of a dot on where the contact point is going to be. And then your super glue. And you'll find that will stick in place and be a really good, strong connection. I mean, unless your players have a tendency of like picking the miniatures up and throwing them across the room or something, this is going to survive, play. And the good thing is if any of the green stuff kind of squishes out, that's okay. You can take a knife and just kind of squish it down. But see, now, where is he? I went from Mohawk guy with sword, right? To, that's weird. He's got like a sword handle on his hilt, but there's no blade. And no, it didn't break off. That's just how it is. So Mohawk guy with shield to not Mohawk guy with a big ass morning star and shield. And again, I can always put like, I've got a knife here somewhere that looks just like the knife that Eli was carrying in the book of Eli. And I can always glue that on somebody's waist, just to show that they've got a big freaking knife. Because it doesn't have a hand. It's just a knife, just an extra knife. There it is. It's underneath this base here, but you see, it's like what they'd call like a full-bellied Bowie knife or something like that, or a machete or something. So I can easily, on the side of him where there's just the sword blade, the sword handle, but no blade, take the snips again, because, I love my snips, and just carefully as I can, cut that away. Now, this resin I use for my miniatures is a water rinsable, frozen resin that's their extra tough resin. And what that means is that it typically, unlike a lot of resins you can get, this stuff, you can actually cut into it a little bit, drill holes in it, and stuff like that without worrying about it cracking like glass. That is an issue with a lot of the older resins. Like when I very first got into the hobby, I was using the resin that required, IPO. Funny story, I still use IPO even with this water rinsable resin. But see, now I put that, now we put this big knife where that sword hilt was that I removed. You can still see it a little bit. I might have to take the X-Acto knife and clean that out, or adjust the blade to cover it better. But anyway, now you've got characters that, while their bodies started out identical, they could represent two entirely different wasteland warriors, let's say. And yeah, to me, the painting is not the fun. The fun is all the mods and stuff, just really customizing miniatures, making them where it's like, yeah, this guy is definitely unique and awesome looking. I mean, I just really like that. And the easiest way to do that is really just head and weapon swaps. And then if you want to get crazy, you can also throw like holstered pistols and backpacks and all kinds of other stuff on them to really, gear them up. And yeah, I mean, it's easy to do. It doesn't take hardly any time to do. And it will take your miniature from being, just blah, the same as all the other miniatures of that type, to being something really, really unique and special that you can really be proud of. And hey, if you're not doing that, then what are you doing? I mean, right? I guess maybe you're just building miniatures to play a game with, a war game with, or something, and you don't care. That's fine. That's fine. That's 100% awesome. But like I said, I'm the guy that likes to mod up everything. Like literally, I'm over here like doing crazy head swaps and weapon swaps. You know, like I've got an old Mosin Nagant rifle here that doesn't even got hands on it. I could put this across the back of a miniature and just be like, yeah, he's got an old rifle from the time of the ancients. Maybe he knows how to use it. Maybe he don't. Maybe he's got ammo for it. Maybe he doesn't. You know, a lot of adventuring and modeling possibilities. Just right there. Got tons of different shields, some wild and woolly heads. Yeah. I mean, I've actually got a bits box that I need to, like, I mount all my traveler characters on a base like this, painted silver, and then glue it to a standard 25 mil base. Because these bases are so thin, they're actually designed just to be base toppers. And I like my traveler figures to, have that kind of sci-fi, you know, walking through a spaceship base. I think it just really takes it up just that extra bit. And you know, sometimes that extra bit, that's all you need. That's all you need. So anyway, where did that backpack go? I don't know. But I think this has been just about enough of me blowing your eardrums up. So I am going to go ahead and drop out and get this uploaded, and you guys can have a wonderful day. This is a long recording. I'll try to make some shorter recordings about stuff. And as always, if there's anything that for some reason you want my opinion on, just put it in comments. I do requests. That is something that I do, you know. Um, so, yeah. Peace and love. God bless and all that. And have fun, customizing and painting your minis. I mean, if the hobby isn't fun, why are you doing it?